All right, click the links to join the channel here over at SubScribestar, the various other links. So Neil Gaiman, male feminist, goes down, accused of assault by two women. So as soon as this comes out for him, he knows, he sees these dollar signs in his head, because he knows from this point onward, no matter how they public relations try to rehab his character or whatever happens civilly, this costs him millions of dollars, because there's going to be things that are just not offered to him from this point onward. So how we got here is the sexual revolution plus Bolshevism plus feminism, cancel culture, and the Frankfurt School to where we are in this current situation, which is something close to paralysis of analysis, where people on the left just can't do anything anymore. And people were talking about what's happening in Hollywood now, because everything that they try to put out. I was listening to what's that Neurotic Friday night show, a few minutes of that, and they're talking about how Hollywood is having this very serious decline, where people are moving out of California and they're leaving the industry just because the things they're throwing against the wall are not connecting. And they're talking about various ways to save Hollywood, and they can't. There's nothing they can do, because they're talking about bringing the sitcom back, and you look at it's like every punchline is going to be some variation of blonde man, white people, Christianity, something like that, bad. And there's no way to bring any of Hollywood back. There's no way to save anything. So if you play by the left-wing rules, then Neil Gaiman is guilty, and he's going to be canceled. And people have been sharing rumors about him for years, and just waiting for him to get the Weinstein treatment. And defending Neil Gaiman is not going to be easy for me, because obviously he wouldn't defend me. He's going to be the first to say, believe women, believe victims, because he's a liberal scumbag. No offense if you're a fan. Good writer, still a parasite, and he's in hot water now because we're hot and heavy into cancel culture. And I had a bunch of his books on the shelf, and I think I finally gave them away, because he was like making all the characters what they weren't. They were making, I don't know, like trans and race swapping them and all this kind of nonsense to the original characters, because he's whatever the current soup of the day is for globalism, this dude was fully on board with. So I look at this book, and like, social media has ruined a lot of things, where I ended up thinning out my library of a lot of things. But I'm consistent, because I said before, and I'll say now, don't believe women or alleged victims or the court of public opinion, which usually turns out to be a witch trial based on popularity and Marxist oppression points. I mean, don't believe men either. Don't trust allegations, trust due process, even when it's for somebody I don't like this globalist scumbag. But I hate to break it to you, men and women lie all the time, because we're not angels. Yes, women will lie about the most horrific things for a chance to destroy somebody. There were spats in Comicsgate where, I didn't see the evidence of these accusations, so I just couldn't reach a conclusion. So I continued to just go on as I had before. And more people need to get comfortable looking at a situation, go, I don't have all the details, so I can't reach a conclusion. And people are really uncomfortable with that. So Neil Gaiman is popular with the left, so all of a sudden the believe all women, and the fighting they're doing on Twitter about this is fascinating. Believe victims of assault, suddenly there's some people who are throwing that out the window, and then his fans try to rehab his character on Twitter in the court of public opinion, because he's a globalist nutjob who says all the right things about loving the trans crowd. And he doesn't give two shits about trans anything. This dude loves pussy, and he knows how to manipulate young, useful idiots by parodying Marxist talking points. And you take some writer on the right, some military science fiction guy, and if he was accused of the same thing, and they just go back to believing the victims, and the accusation is the proof. And they did this with Trump. Who's that Vanderbilt Cooper CIA guy? Anderson is credibly accused. That's what they said, that hot word, credibly, which is not a term at law, of course. It's like hate speech. That's actually not a legal term either. There's only the accused, and the judge and jury decide the law and the facts. So calling an accusation credible is to bypass due process and prejudge the case to kind of, in this, in many cases, bias the jury, it reaches the conclusion in the pleadings, so you don't need a trial. And that's coming from the mainstream media, and it has been like that for several years, where they have no appearance of trying to be what the media should have been. Think about what credibly accused means, but nobody does. I mean, that's not exactly true, because they know that CNN or MSNBC's, they know there's a problem there, but when are they going to get the message out that mainstream media is controlled by these like 6 globalist lizard people companies? Where can you offer a counter perspective? Nowhere. That's what control of the media means. It's an institution that's completely captured. At least for the boomers who are still turning on TV, there's no counter perspective on TV. And then when they do something like they accuse Biden or or who's that, Frank's senator, or any other left-wing person predator in office. I mean, this is why #MeToo came and went after about a year, because almost everyone who was busted was a left-wing DNC donor or a far left-wing Hillary Clinton supporter, or Weinstein shaking hands with an Oprah Winfrey type of person. It was like, who did you think you were going to bust in Hollywood? There's not a whole lot of far-right people in Hollywood at all. So Rachel Maddow and Cooper will say that the accusations, if it's against a left-wing person, have not been verified, but they're credible against a right-wing person because they didn't verify it, because they didn't want to. And think about the word usage here. It's the same prejudging. How do you verify an accusation? Only a court of law can do that by meeting the elements of the law, and it has to be sworn testimony subject to felonious perjury. And MSNBC is so pathetically bad, but there's no counter-narrative out there to poke holes in how insanely biased it is. They don't even pretend to be fair and impartial. That ship sailed, I mean, decades ago, if it was even truly even there. I mean, you might have had to go back to like 70 years ago to have a media that was trying to be fair. Anyway, the other big part, and it's kind of hard to squeeze into a 10-minute video and still get monetization, is that it has to do with treating adult women like children and not like adults, which the left wing is. They accuse the right wing of doing this, of the Handmaid's Tale or something. There actually are areas of the country that believe in an ideology that actually does do these things to women, like dress codes and public abuse of them. And it's not Christianity. Were you aware of that? The Handmaid's thing is such a self-own. When they show these women being forced to cover up, yeah, you're close. I mean, you're 1,400 years away from Christianity. Anyway, the thing is, it has to do with treating adult women like children, which they say the right does. And you look at the left and but you infantilize them all the time. Some of the accusations here are sort of a result of the 60s feminism, free love, birth control, and promiscuity, because what used to mostly happen is, or at least what the goal was, that for young couples to get married, have kids, and not have sex before marriage, because sex was and is or should be a special bond between two people that can bring forth new life. It should be sacred and a spiritual thing, but feminism in the 60s brainwashed naive cattle women to just become cum dumpsters and be proud of that and sleep around, don't settle down, don't parent bond, and only have sex with one person, your husband, which makes for the most stable structure to build a family, to build a community, to build a neighborhood, is that concept of natal nationism. 3 is the magic number, if you remember Bob Duro. The other thing that happened is the harsh reality that men are not women, no offense, and they don't behave like women. To be blunt, why would you buy the cow if you can get the milk for free? And when that conversation comes up with left-wing Twitter, they get offended. It's like, okay, you've expressed your offense. Move past that and let's have the discussion. Women control sex, but men control marriage. And what happened was the globalists wanted to, the purpose of the thing is what it does. They wanted to destroy the family, lower white birth rates, who were the majority of the country at the time this all kicked off. They're 85-90%. Destroy social cohesion and watch the fabric of society fall apart as brainwashed women overturned thousands of years of common sense that they were the prize that men got in marriage. The young men are not thinking about or even understanding building a family when they're 18. They just want sex. That's why women's parents protected their daughter's virginity, because she needed to give it to her husband on their wedding night. They got married and he got sex when he was young and obsessed with it, and you know what it was like. And she eventually got pregnant when they were young enough to have a lot of kids. And that got turned upside down by the literal Bolsheviks in the 60s. They said you had a chance to I'll say remove them in the 50s. And you got a few, but you really would have had to go all out. Anyway, so they set out to destroy the family, and they did. Then they opened the door, and then they replaced them. Society is not set up for men to have sex with pretty young babysitters. Your parents are supposed to be the babysitters, or you drop the kids off at your sibling's house. But people don't have big families or live even close to their families. Everything is so completely corrupted. Are you saying America is the great Satan? Oh, yeah, absolutely. And broken already, that these problems of this guy in his 40s and 50s, he's in his 60s now, but he was in his 40s or 50s or something, old married men with kids having sex with convention whores is just bizarre. There's always been degenerate parasites like Gaiman, but never to the extent where old men are banging young women, because in a healthy society, a young woman wouldn't be around a guy unescorted. And yes, I know how old-fashioned this is, and I didn't believe any of this when I was young, obviously, because I just wanted what everyone wants. But now I look at society, family, and I see how absolutely screwed the West is. Women should not have been with Weinstein, because it should have been inconceivable to go to somebody's room. Or if they did, a family member would handle it. Or even one further is like women wouldn't have any connection to Weinstein at all, because there wouldn't be young women acting. They'd be at home raising kids when they are still within that fertility window. And yes, I know the feminist SJWs would say a bunch of stupid things, but I'm correct and the SJWs are wrong. Was the 19th a mistake? Obviously. Either you have to treat women like adults, or understand that they're children and they need to be controlled and supervised by their parents and then passed off to a husband. Dear feminists, society used to function just fine on one salary, and now you can't afford to have kids even with 2 salaries. But thank God you gave up having a huge family so you can blow your boss in his office and finish up some worthless TPS reports. The communists convinced women to fight for the right to work. So what happens? Oh, well, the economy has to adjust to 2 incomes. Then it becomes necessary. You devalue labor, cause inflation, and then they open the door to the other countries. And the purpose of the thing is what it does. They wanted to lower the birth rates of the biggest population in America in the 60s. People who look like you and I, and they did. Now women work full time and they pay another woman to raise their kids. And nobody in Congress ever says the things that I'm saying, real simple, basic, obvious things. Hey, why don't we close that door to people who raise housing costs and focus on deporting people to increase the value of labor and lower housing costs? And maybe stop printing money, and in fact end the Federal Reserve and go to a gold standard or a limited currency set in the Constitution. Why not rebuild a country based on one person working and a mother raising kids? You can't possibly look at this Weimar and think that we're on the right path when you're in a cycle of endless work for a dollar that loses money every minute because they just keep printing more fiat currency. And I know it seems to be a schizophrenic rant, but it's all connected, because women and people are in positions that 50 years ago would have just been inconceivable. And 50 years ago they were right, and we're wrong now. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys on the next episode.